Winter 2012-2013. Draft horses in a holding pen of the Bouvry slaughterhouse in Canada. We were there to investigate horsemeat production in North America. What we found contradicted all promises of the importers. Following these investigations, all Swiss supermarkets and many in the Netherlands and Belgium stopped the import of horsemeat from Torturous production. For the Belgian Meat Federation, FEBEV, and other European horsemeat importers, the images of tortured horses were immaterial. With the advertising platform Respectful Life, they are even trying to further increase the imports of cruel meat from overseas. What this means for the horses is shown by our investigation from winter 2019.
At $900, anybody get $900, anybody get $1,000 for $900, anybody get $1,000, anybody get $1,050, $1,000 now, and anybody get $1,000, anybody get $100, anybody get $1,000, anybody get $700.
Horses from several US states are moved through the auction ring and subsequently through raceways to the pens of the slaughter merchants, so-called kill buyers. The horses are tired, frightened, and some are lame, like this white horse, or injured, like this pinto with a bleeding open wound. The horses receive no medical assistance since they are only slaughter horses. They are described as loose horses by Americans, as can be seen on the entrance sign to the auction premises. Here, horses that have served their purpose are disposed of. As in previous years, there is no weather protection for the horses. Also, the feed gets wet and freezes to blocks of ice. The horses remain in these pens until they are loaded the next day. From all sides, we hear whinnying. Separated comrades are searching for each other. At this auction, the horses stand on frozen excrement. They neither have clean bedding, dry feed, nor dry resting areas. At this auction, horses are confined in wooden pens for up to 2 days. They are unfamiliar with each other, they stand too close together. Pure stress. The constant noise from the auction ring and the lack of feed increases stress levels.
713's the number. How much here? 400. 2.5, 300.
At the auctions in Sugar Creek and Billings, kill buyers purchase horses for the Canadian Bouvry slaughterhouse. We follow a horse transport to Bouvry's collection center in Shelby, Montana. The lame and injured horses were loaded as well. According to the manual of the importers, only horses that are healthy and not stressed may be loaded. The pen facility has industrial dimensions. In the bitter cold, as well as in the scorching heat, the horses are kept in the open. They are mixed together, including foals. Protection from the elements is non-existent. We take a closer look at the pens and find a dead horse. And another one the next day with a large wound. It seems that a piece of flesh has been bitten off the carcass. Coyotes live here. We see several emaciated horses despite access to fattening feed, a sign of disease. In the background, a black horse standing in a painful posture. He is lame. Before the transportation to Canada, the horses are weighed in groups. A group of about 30 horses is moved to the loading ramp. The journey from Shelby to Alberta in Canada takes about 5 hours. The temperatures are between -10 and -20 degrees Celsius. In the EU, animals must not be transported in these temperatures. What do FEBEV, the Swiss Import Association VPI, and the other importers say about that? Nothing. In the biting cold, the transporter arrives at the Bouvry slaughterhouse, minus 22 degrees. Without special clothing, we cannot get out of the car. Here as well, the horses stand in the open without any protection. Even though the manual of the importers requires, in case of the horses are kept in groups on pastures, besides the general requirements, horses must not be exposed unprotected to extreme weather conditions. The manual speaks of pastures. In reality, the ground consists of feces. In winter, frozen hard as stone. In summer, deep mud. Only small areas are bedded, nowhere near enough as resting areas for all the horses. The horses brought here from the USA have to stay in these pens under these cruel conditions for 6 months. This quarantine time is required by the EU. Again and again, we hear horses coughing, like this seriously ill horse. Ill, injured and weak horses shall be isolated from other animals and must be slaughtered or killed as soon as possible after arrival at the slaughterhouse. Horses with pre-acute or severely painful injuries are to be stunned and killed immediately. Veterinary care is not mentioned anywhere in FEBEV's manual. Instead of medical treatment, a slaughter number has been branded into the skin of this seriously ill horse. Emergency killing is not performed either. Horse steaks are more profitable for Bouvry, FEBEV and the supporting companies of Respectful Life. For this seriously sick horse, which has severe diarrhea, no money is spent for assistance or emergency killing. He is abandoned. We can only film undercover and without attracting attention. Therefore, we cannot film all the sick and injured horses. We only see a part of the endless horse suffering in these pens. But what we see is no different from 2013. In an industrial feedlot, the individual animal doesn't count. With thousands of horses, these are collateral damage. The importers know this, at the least since the supermarkets terminated their supply contracts. In the past, pregnant mares and those with foals were kept separately. This is not the case today. The mares are mixed together with all the other horses without any supervision. This has fatal consequences. They have their foals unnoticed, which then freeze to death at birth. Huge painful brand marks on very young animals. They show that they are also destined to become horse steaks. FEBEV writes in its manual, the construction of the floor must not endanger the health of the horses. Fact is, a lot of horses walk very sensitively on the uneven floor, which consists of frozen excrement and rocks. Next day of our inspection, minus 33 degrees Celsius. We can only leave our wind-protected hiding place for a few minutes at the time and film. Again, we detect a lot of emergencies. A group of young horses. Some are already sick from fattening. They need roughage, but only get concentrated feed. In their despair, they eat dirty, frozen bedding. Some show a clear pain posture. Scenes like in 2012 and 2013. Only a few of these young horses are playing. Most want to escape the cold, without hope. Or they chew on plastic twines out of boredom. If the horse swallows the twine, he would need emergency surgery. Lameness remains untreated. The resting area must be supplied with sufficient clean and dry litter, states FEBEV in its manual. Fact is, the litter where horses search for food is not dry but wet or frozen and mixed with manure. We hear a horse that is coughing constantly. He lies next to a horse who presumably suffers from colic. Both need help. This horse can no longer stand up to defecate. The horses are fattened until they get sick. The feed is too high in protein. It serves to make the horses fat and boost the slaughter weight. This is taken care of. Clean water, fresh hay, no importance is placed on that, as these lumps of hay, dirt, ice and remains of plastic nets show. The hay available in a few pens is covered in snow. What we observed in 2012 and 2013, we see again. Typical head and leg injuries, which occur during loading and transport of horses in groups. The lack of hoof care and the frozen rocky ground cause pain and lameness. For severely lame horses, this means additional suffering. In 2014, Bouvry promised to trim the hoofs of the horses. 2019, hardly a horse with healthy hoofs. FEBEV writes in its manual, the hoofs should be kept long enough so that the horses can stand anatomically correct, without affecting their movement. Paper is patient. Horses as well, they have no option. However, the pain tortures them continuously until the day of slaughter. The situation of the pregnant mares is particularly dramatic. In the past, 2013, as today, we don't see a single nursing foal. Why this is so soon becomes clear. They don't survive the birth, they die of the cold. We find several dead foals. A mare tries to make the dead foal stand up. Other horses arrive on the scene. Do they want to bid farewell, or also want to make the foal get up? Three days later, we return to the previously observed pens in order to see if the horses have received assistance. The hay bales are still frozen, the horses have no dry roughage available, and the wound of the injured pinto is left untreated. It has continued to snow. A picture like a metaphor. A dead foal and the suffering of the horses disappears under a covering of snow. With the website Respect for Life, FEBEV, VPI, importers and producers have created a smokescreen to disguise the misery of tens of thousands of animals and to be able to expand the business of cruelly produced meat. Together with our partners in Europe and overseas, we call for an import ban on horse meat from Torturous production.